Hello, before I get into anything into this video, I'm not gonna bring out any boards. I'm not gonna do out any edits or anything of like in this video, like edited, where it will show you this or that. I'm just going to say it in a way that I can remember, okay? Because I'm probably going to forget if I ever did something like that. But basically, I am making my own street equivalent to like classic chess, otherwise known as King's Court. And basically, like I said, it's just a street version of it. But it's also a postmodern version, meaning it's like updated to the like my time period, if you know what I mean. And yeah, there's a lot of rule changes to it. It's a local version that I made. Um, it's a local version that I made that got really popular in Adrian, Michigan, and because that's where I lived, and it started spreading through there. Now it's not as popular as it once was over there because there's not a lot of people from like actual chess clubs who play chess variants like that because they might not even be aware that there is a street chess in Adrian, Michigan, USA. But there is. There is a version of it. And that variant, I like to call Zook, as in Zook, Zook720. Zook720. Why is it called Zook720? Well, I'll explain it to you. Alright? The Zook part is the whole, like, I'm just saying it because I want to feel like because I'm still kind of a part of that town, sort of. And then the 720 is because it's a variant of classic chess that comes from another variant of classic chess, which is Chess 360 or Fisher Random. And basically, it's a bit more complicated than Fisher Random. So I'll give you a explanation. There is no exact standard, so you don't have to have it like you know how they say you have to have like the white square on the right side. Well, in this version, you don't have to have that. Alright, you don't have to have that. And in this version, you can either do one of two ways to set up your pieces. You can either put them like you would in Fisher Random, but unlike in regular Fisher Random where it's just the first row you mixed up, you do both. Alright? You do both of it. Or what you could just do is individually, like the game has already started even if the board is empty. The game has pretty much already started. You just have to agree to start it, and have all your pieces. But you individually, each piece, before you even like actually play, each piece you put on there, that is where you start, like putting on the pieces is where you start the game. And then once you finally put all the pieces on, then both of you can move your pieces, alright? Both of you have to have all your pieces on there, okay? Once you both have all your pieces on there, then it's good to go. And, alright, here's some modifications that I've had, especially for the pawn. Because the pawn, as we know, is basically the most nerfed and slightly OP character, but I wanted to increase its power, make it less nerfed, make it less weak, in other words. Basically, what I want to do is be able to let it move 2 spaces whenever it wants, as long as it's available. I'm not kidding you. It doesn't matter what part on the board, if it can move 2 spaces straight forward and backward too, where it can move like 1 space or 2 spaces backward as much as it wants, as long as it has room to. And for regular capture, like it's regular capturing, it can still do its normal capturing, but if it does en passant or in passing, it can both go backward and frontward. So if you, because in this version you can move to frontward or backward. If you as a player move like 2 spaces frontwards or backwards with that pawn, whatever pawn is right next to it, that can do either an en passant behind you or in front of you. It's optional, okay? And then another version, and with the pawns and all the other pieces, it's a little bit more complicated. I'll explain it with the other pieces later. But basically, in this version of chess, promotion is optional, as well as being a separate move. What do I mean by that? I mean that when you put your piece on your opponent's end of the board, where all their pieces would have gone in classical chess, where your pieces would have normally promote in classical chess, which it does promote here too. It's just the difference is unlike there where you put your pawn there and you have to immediately promote. In this version of chess, you don't have to immediately promote, but the thing is you can't promote until it's your next turn, alright? And you have the option to promote, alright, whenever you want. But you can't promote on when you put it on the, that space. So you have to wait for your opponent's move to promote, alright? And then if you still don't promote, as long as you're on that end, you're on your opponent's end, you still have the ability to promote as long as that piece is still there and on the end. And then here's a little bit something more. Other pieces, with the exception of the king, can depromote back to a pawn. Doesn't matter. Queen, knight, bishop, rook. If it's not a king, it can depromote back to a pawn. Alright? But the thing is you have to do that back on your end of the board. Alright? You have to go all the way back to your end of the board to depromote, if you will. And then some other adjustments I had for this variant that I played for this variant. Basically, if your king is in trouble or something, and it's on the other end of the board, what you can do is, as long as it's a king, a knight or a queen on the exact other side of the board, you're on your opponent's promotion, not promotion end, but you're where your pawns would normally promote, if your king is on that row, and directly on the other side of that king is a knight or a queen, you can swap places. If it's your turn to move, you can swap places. Alright, that's one of those things. And then in this version, you can actually take the king. It's just the issue is when you take the king or whatever, basically it gives any it doesn't matter if it's a pawn, a rook, a bishop, a knight, or a queen, but usually you're most likely going to go for a queen directly, because it's what's called a royal promotion, and it usually only really works with the queen, but you can do it with other pieces, but you have to do it on your opponent's side if you want to do it with other pieces. Alright? Like, you would have to go to that king spot and move your piece there. But the thing is you either have to checkmate regularly or kill off both the knights and the queen, and then you also have to checkmate the regular king regular way, or just checkmate the king regularly, like you would in regular chess. Then, and only then, will the king be out. But if you capture the king, he's not out, alright? The only way you can do that, where it's like checkmate, is if both the knights and queen are out. And speaking of that, if you have just the queen and you are on the king's side, you can promote back to a king, which I said is a royal promotion. Regular promotion in this form, or the silent fist, as it's also known. Like I said, you'd have to go to your opponent's side, but royal promotion, your side, and you'd have to go where the king would normally be when you start the game in classical chess. Alright? That's what that is. And also, speaking of the king, when you do castle, you don't have to stay in that particular spot. You can move as much as you want. It's just castling. All that means is it just switches the rook in the spot. Basically, it doesn't matter how many do it. You can uncastle. Basically meaning you could do the same thing but in reverse. Alright, you can do that as many times as you want, but you have to be in that row, and, that's pretty much it. Like, your end of the table. But yeah, otherwise, that's pretty much it. You can go through checks, you can, do it, like I said, a lot. And in this particular version, it's not exactly normal. So, yeah, what else? Oh, and again, speaking of the king, this king has both the ability of a queen, like a king, queen, and knight in this version. It's still a king. It's just it has the ability to move far like a queen and be able to jump over like a knight. So it can still do weird L's like a knight as well. It just means it can use both of those. Like it has the option of moving like all sorts of ways if it had both of those. Well, it does have both of those. And because of it, it doesn't matter if you're using the like a queen version move or a knight move. You can still jump over pieces regardless. It's like if the queen could jump over pieces, but if she also had, the ability to move like a knight. That's basically what that is. So yeah, and the king is not as weak in this version. In fact, he's probably the most OP character. The most easily killed, but the most overpowered. And it makes him easily killed because he's so overpowered. But yeah, it's never really the end exactly. And so, in this version of chess, you can basically go on forever, as long as you have time to anyway. Or, you find a way to do that. But yeah, that's basically what this version is. And it changes up so many rules. But I would say the best way to set up your pieces is to just have them individually in the first two rows. But unlike, like I said, regular random Fisher earlier in this video, you can change it up with both rows. So there's no exact standard. There's no standard at all. Okay? Your rooks don't have to be in the same end either. And your bishops don't have to be on 2 different colors. It can be on the same color. Alright? Unlike regular Fisher Random. In that variant. So you wouldn't have to do that. You would have a lot more options, okay? You might be stuck with 2 bishops that are on the same color, but hey, it is what it is. And also, like I said, you don't have to put 2 rooks on 2 separate ends. You can just have them wherever you want, as long as it's in those 2 rows. That's the version of that variant that I like the most, because it helps. I gotten a lot of classical chess players to start playing it through that version of the variant. So yeah, but hey, just remember those rules, and as long as you can and you're actually watching this video, you can save this video or whatever. Just follow those rules, and yeah, you'll have yourself a variant. Or you can even modify. You can even go farther with this variant and make your own completely different thing. Make your own local, maybe down to your house or neighborhood, variant. That kind of thing, and give it a very specific or regional name wherever you are across the world. You don't have to be where I'm from to enjoy it. You can be from wherever the hell, even maybe not on Earth, But that's that variant of chess. So you can hate it, you can love it, you can do whatever you want to it, but it is not a standard version. And in this version, maybe one day, who knows, maybe this could become its own separate chess league, where that specific version where I described, where it's just 2 rows like that, you would be able to have a pro version like they do with regular chess, or 360 chess, that kind of thing, Fisher Random, that, or whatever. But yeah, King's Court, which is a fancy way of just saying classic chess, is a pretty good game, but I also like this variant. Alright? So if you want to give this variant a try, you can. And if you are someone who's really into chess, or plays it professionally, or is just somebody who works in some sort of chess company, maybe, or whatever, or you're just really involved in chess, or you want to get involved in chess, this variant can help. But you'd also have to kind of understand classical version too, maybe, but not exactly completely. Well, anyway, that is the ending of this video. So you can let me know what you think about this, and yeah, just remember, stay ugly.